very fortunate to have Dr. Neva Chapet with us again. She's been a regular presenter for our HIVE Thursdays, been very popular. And I think tonight's topic is really timely. And Neva's put together some really good slides. So we're going to turn it over to Neva, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Brian. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm sorry I can't see you in person, but I'm glad to see you at least virtually.
Wow.
So I'm hoping you're coping, but if not, I'm going to give you some strategies to help you get through the insanity of not just COVID, because there's a long list of things that are going on right now that are very stressful and very unsettling. 2020 is supposed to be about truth coming into the visual field. So if you deal with any numerology or those kinds of things, it's about not just superficial change, but significant, substantial change. So you can see from the title that I didn't say how to cope. I said maintaining mental health resilience, because out of respect for all of you and what you've been through, because I do this work exclusively, I can tell you that you already know how to be resilient. You fought to come out as an authentic person. You fought to not go into the closet again behind HIV. You know, and this week was a pretty big week for the LGBT community. For those of you who are amazing, I never thought I'd see it, because, you know, I was born and reared in the Deep South, and they'll fire you down there in some parts of it just for being gay, bisexual, transgender, period. No matter what your work performance looks like. It's insane. So I'm assuming that you have already developed some skill sets around resilience. And I know I did a talk for you guys last year sometime, I think, about resilience. And I'm guessing we probably need to fine tune some of your resilience skills as opposed to introduce you to how to be resilient. But I can do either. So you let me know as we go through the slides what you need, because many of you I've known for a while and I know some stuff about you, but some of the newer folks I might need to do a little bit of repeating maybe what I said before. So it's great to see you. God bless you. I hope you're all healthy physically, and if not mentally, I'll do my best to help you with that as well. I can tell you during the pandemic that I have had more contact with my patients than I normally would, just to support them, just to help them understand that this is the most insane time I have ever lived through. And every day it's one more thing. And I'm assuming everybody's registered to vote in, you know, if you're not, I'm coming for you. Okay, so Emmanuel, if you can move us to the first slide. Thank you. So, you know, I wish it was just COVID, but, you know, Black Lives Matters, like we even have to say that. Of course they matter, for God's sake. They should have mattered from day one. But I grew up in the Deep South, where racism is huge down there still, and it's huge here, even in liberal Southern California. So we need to get it together and stop trying to have a superior race and not treat everybody the same. It's ridiculous. And I'm glad to see that maybe this time it might actually stick. But, you know, until we get through the court process, it's going to be difficult to know if this is going to really hold. So when I talk to my existing private patients about how they're coping, they introduce me to quarantina. Now, for those of you who heard the pronunciation, quarantina means that P&P is now occurring, party and play, still under quarantine, and of course with Tina, amphetamines still being the drug of choice. So I've seen a little bit of an increase in relapse as a result of the coalescence of all these variables, protesting, the Trump era, the, reversal of rights. It's just awful. So I don't know if you or your friends are experiencing that, but anybody who needs help, I'm happy to help them, even if I don't get paid. Because a lot of times when we are stressed out, we go back to old dysfunctional coping strategies. And clearly, drug use is an old, for many of us, an old dysfunctional coping strategy. And yes, it will make you feel better temporarily, but Lord, it's a problem. So the stay-at-home order does not mean you're living in North Korea. It means that you can still go out with a mask as long as you are healthy enough to be out. And that's a decision your doc and you have to make. Okay. Okay, next slide, Emmanuel, please. So here's what I'm consistently hearing from my own patients, whether they're tied to an agency or whether they're seeing me privately. Just everything's upside down. A lot of apprehension. I don't know what's coming. I can't sleep. Every day it's something new, compounding the 16 things that are already in place. I don't know how good my health is. Of course, you know me well enough, many of you, to know that I'm taking this opportunity to tell my patients, please, this is the time to stop smoking anything, including weed. Putting anything in your lungs is not smart. So I know nicotine is hard to come off of it. It's been designed to hold you for life by the manufacturers. So I'm hoping that if you or someone you care about is still pounding down, nicotine, marijuana, try to do it in a way that is not inhaled. Now, as you know from prior trainings I've done, inhalation of a drug, meaning vapors, is the quickest way to get the desired effect, quicker than putting a needle in your vein. So it's quicker, and it's also harder to come off of because the effect is so deeply imprinted when you consume it that way. People are, for the first month of the quarantine, I don't know what day it is. I'm not sure if it's May yet. What time is it? I was doing a lot of sleeping, which Lord knows I needed, which is great. But I got my days and nights kind of lost in, the afternoon when I would wake up, I would think it's the morning. I'm like, okay, do you need to check in the nursing home or what's going on with you? But when you don't have structure, days don't matter. Schedules don't matter. It's a weird experience. Sadness, loss of interest. When we feel overwhelmed and without power, we oftentimes can become depressed. Now, this is what I'm about to tell you. I've said before, but it's worth a moment of your life for me to repeat it. Even if you understand why you're depressed, and you can list all the 17 reasons, it is understanding why does not mean you should avoid treatment for. I hope you understand that. Some of my clients are getting their government checks, and so far so good. It's been pretty difficult to put people out on disability, but I'm using the internet to do it with the state disability program for those who have psychiatric disabilities and who need to, because on your little check, when you see SDI, CASDI, California State Disability, that's your money. They just taking it every paycheck and they're banking it in somewhere in Sacramento, I'm guessing. And you'll never see that money unless you have a viable disability, psychological, that somebody like me who would be treating you would fill out the paperwork and say, manic episode due to need for medication adjustment, addiction relapse risk enhanced because of the manic episode, need stabilization for medication to settle down the brain. I'm recommending that we put him out for 3 months. So, you know, I do that all the time, and I can do it for addiction as well. So it's not, you know, if you're confused, you just call me. Y'all, I think, know how to reach me, or certainly Brian will give you my number, and I can help you navigate the system if you're in that situation. But if you're already seeing somebody for therapy or psychiatry, then they would be able to do it quicker and better if they're knowledgeable about how to do it and are comfortable doing it. Now, you know, a lot of times we cohabitate with people, and sometimes they're our life partners, and sometimes they are, you know, fillers, if you're following me here. So now that we are, you know, coexisting and sometimes with folks, we're really getting to see the real picture. And I have seen an increase in domestic violence in my gay and straight patients. Usually complicated by alcohol or prescription drug misuse. So domestic violence is never acceptable. I don't care how much you love someone, because love and domestic violence have nothing to do with each other. So I've seen a couple of breakups during this period, but emotional breakups, but reluctance to physically segregate because, you know, who's got money to move out? So a lot of people feel kind of trapped and stuck, which is the worst thing in the world, I think, for people to not have the ability to get into a healthy environment. So just FYI, drug use has gone up, especially weed. I don't know that I know anyone professionally who is not 420 legal and smoking, you know, a lot like in my day, Cheech and Chong. But in the younger days, maybe like Snoop Dogg. So there's a lot of marijuana, probably abuse going on. And of course, alcohol, which is to me way worse. All right, so next slide, Emmanuel, please. Of course, if you live alone, you know, you might be talking to the picture frames at this point, or the birds that land on your patio, or whatever, you know, enters your life that could give you the opportunity to speak. So it might be smart to gauge how connected you are to a support system, not just professionals, but maybe peers, maybe friends. If you're struggling with addiction and you're in recovery, please make sure they're sober friends, and please know going into that friendship, they are likely to downplay if they're really truly in recovery, or if they're in abstinence, or if they're in any of that. So, you know, we're in LA. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors out here in terms of what's really going on with someone compared to how they are really living. Isolation is fuel for depression. So, you know, as some of you know, my brother is a you-know-who supporter. So I've even been able to talk to him through some of this without losing my mind on the phone. I've been able to sleep a lot, but not make sure I'm not oversleeping. You should wake up feeling like your body has rested. Sleep is not an option. Sleep is essential. If you're not sleeping, you have to talk to somebody like me or your providers, because even if you have to do a medication short term to get you through this, any doctor worth their salt, I believe, would offer you something to help you sleep temporarily. There's no shame in asking for something to help you with sleep. Now, if you're asking for Xanax, they're going to know that you're drug seeking. We don't use Xanax for sleep. So make sure that you are tracking, you know, many of us have apps that track our sleep. And that's a good way for you to have data to show to your doc or your nurse practitioner or your PA, whoever it is, your mental health person as well. What exactly is your sleeping difficulty? Is it difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or is your sleep interrupted by trauma dreams? You know, there's lots of things we have to tease out before we can go down the road of figuring out. Sometimes you might have sleep apnea and you don't even know it. For my long-term survivors, we're at that age where, you know, we could be snoring pretty heavily, gasping for breath at night, and that's not quality sleep. That's probably something that's going to require a sleep study where you spend a night at a sleep lab as soon as they open back up, of course. And they monitor your brain waves and your respiration patterns and your leg movement patterns, and they help figure out what could possibly cause your sleep to be disrupted. A lot of my patients I've seen in the last couple of decades, they come in with depression and insomnia, and before I'm running to do anything psychiatrically, I talk to the physician or whoever's involved medically and say, can we please order a sleep study so we can see what physiology is going on? Because remember, in the world of psychiatry and psychology, mental health, we don't really look at the brain, which makes no sense to me. So any attempt to look at the brain through, some type of objective scientific approach, like a sleep study or a functional MRI or whatever we can get someone to pay for, is way better to use as a basis upon which to make a decision about what might be factoring into your sleep. Some of you are getting up to pee. I'm sorry, but you probably are. You get to an age where you have prostate issues, and some people are waking up 2 and 3 and 4 times at night to just urinate. That's treatable. So please do not just think, well, it's old age, I just have to suffer through it. The answer is not only no, it's hell no. Speak up. Sleep, sleep, sleep. Not excessive, but quality. Quantity plus quality is what you're going after. A couple of my patients actually, which I found interesting during this period, they reached out to me to say, they know me professionally. So they said to me, so listen, I spent all my gay life trying to be authentic and take control over my life. What do you know about dying with dignity? I said, a lot, actually. And I said, why? And they said, well, at this time, I'm thinking about durable powers of attorney. Do I really want to be on a ventilator, for God's sake? Do I want my body to be donated to science? But more importantly than that regular kind of stuff that most of us should think about, they also were thinking about how they could access and do it the right way with competent medical assistance, death with dignity on their own terms, in their own house, with the right medication prescribed by their doctor once they reach a state of being terminal. So I'm not saying any of you need to worry about this right now, but what I'm saying, during times like this, where when you're worried about your own mortality and your life duration, it might be worth a moment while you're still healthy to figure out, if you haven't already, how do you want this process to go? Right? Because none of us are going to escape it. We're all going to go wherever we go after this. There is a website that I've used to plan my own death when, God forbid, it's time. I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm not even recommending it. I'm just, as a sister of yours, trying to let you know, Ed, that you don't have to die on the terms of someone else. Meaning, there's a website that I've used in an agency I'm attached to that's called Exit International. The name gives you a clue, right? And it's about physicians mostly who are helping their patients walk through the laborious process, tedious, of getting all the paperwork lined up. So as they approach, the end of their life, the doctors determine they're terminal, they will assist them in the state of California with the right medications that will do the job without struggle, vomiting, fighting. For those of you who have been around as long as I have in the world of HIV, in the early days, we talked about a book called The Final Exit by Derek Humphreys. The Exit International they've taken that and built upon it, and it's called Exit International, and they have a book that is called The Peaceful Handbook. And it will show you what your options really are in terms of physiology and pharmacology. Then you have to get on the California websites for Dying with Dignity to get all the paperwork filled out, completely, properly looked over by, you, the people who are going to be around you at the time. It's a lot. So if you, for me as a gay woman who's fought all her life to be free from stigma, free from judgment, free from ignorance, this one last stage of my life, when it comes, and I'm hoping it's not sooner, don't get me wrong, I want to be in charge of it as much as I humanly can. So if you're interested, I can maybe next time talk a little more about it, or you can research it yourself and see if it's something of interest to you. I find gay people are more open to it, gay, bisexual, and trans people are more open to it than my heterosexual family and friends. They're like, oh no, I'm just gonna go when God takes me. I'm like, okay, well, God's probably exhausted at this point. Maybe just decided to, leave us to our own demise. And maybe what you've been taught about what God wants might not actually be true. So, food for thought. Let me get back to the slides. When you're struggling with depression, one of the things that you might not know is a symptom of it is you're just indecisive. You can't figure out if you're going to go to the grocery store today, if you're going to call your friend today, if you, want to go and pick up the mail. You're just overwhelmed by the simplest things that I would like you to realize it may be a part of what could be for you depression. It could be high anxiety, it could be PTSD. There's a number of things somebody like me's got to rule out before we can even say that depression is real for you. But I would love for you to please understand that if you are having trouble making a damn decision about, basic life things, should I should I pay my bills today or just leave it till next week? Well, if I write the checks now or whatever I have to do, get online and do electronic payment, then maybe I don't have to think about it. It's already done. So I'm wanting you to understand that I expect all of us right now to be a bit confused because the world is upside down on every level you can probably imagine. But the most important level that it's upside down on is what I call existential stress. Are we going to live? Are we going to get COVID? Many of us want to go and participate in the protest. We go with the mask and the things we're supposed to do, but social distancing is not easy to do in an environment where people are, yelling and talking loudly and in close confinement. So if any of you are going to Tulsa, I'm joking with you, for the talk, who is having this weekend, it's a shameful evidence that he cares about himself and himself only. It's awful that that's even going to happen. I was hoping the government would intervene at the state level and say, no, this is a health risk. We're not doing it. So existential means just that, existence. Why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing with our life? What's the purpose of being here? And we're dealing with some pretty fundamental questions. However, for you guys who have been dealing with death and dying, that dance for years, especially in your early days of diagnosis, you've already experienced dancing with the Grim Reaper and dancing with your own mortality. And if you've done a good job, you're probably way stronger than most people are right now, because what you've already dealt with has sort of conditioned you or programmed you to ride this wave of craziness better than people who have not had a foundation of having danced with their own mortality before. Mortality, dead, not just ill. So I'm hoping that this is making sense. Brian, would you like me to give them the floor for a minute to see if they want me to just go on or if there's a question or a comment?
Um, I would say raise your hand if you have any questions, and we can unmute everyone. Looks like
Nope.
looks like everybody's good.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'll just proceed. And if you have a question, I mean, you think you're going to forget it, which would be welcome to my world, because sometimes I'm looking for my glasses and they're on my face. I'm like, oi, really? Just jot a note down. So when we get to the end, hopefully we'll have time for a few questions. Okay. Emmanuel, would you send me to the next slide, please? Okay. As gay people, many of us thought we would be alone because we are a minority of the minority status. We all suffer from minority stress, which is people, wanting us to fit into their norms and their expectations and all that. But this little group right here on this video chat or video conference, we are good support for each other. And I appreciate you guys realizing the significance of that. And kudos to Brian for making this kind of thing available, because many of us have become used to thinking that, well, as you get older and you're gay, your shelf life is over. So you're probably going to end up being alone. Well, all I can tell you from someone who's single and really happy, you decide from the inside out whether or not you need or whether or not you want a partner. Don't let the answer come from the outside in. Expectations of others, what you've been told is acceptable. You should be the architect of your own life, no one else. Okay. Excessive worrying is pretty much how most of us are living these days. We're worried about money, we're worried about our health, we're worried about the country, right? We're worried about the November election. I mean, it's just nonstop. And the only time you're going to really be able to turn that off is when you're sleeping. So if you're having excess worry, first thing I would recommend is some kind of exercise, preferably outdoors with a mask, sunshine. Because we're all live in California, we're all vitamin D deficient. How in the hell can that be? Well, most of us don't go outside for any duration. So if you can, what I try to do when I'm hiking or running is try to visualize successes I've had in life and the beauty of nature. Because I can only imagine what LA looked like and Orange County looked like before we all got here. With those orange blossoms blooming and the smell of that, it had to be amazing. So we're blessed where we live, but if you don't take advantage of the topography and the landscape and the beauty of, the bougainvillea and the things that are out there, you're missing an opportunity. If you want hummingbirds to visit you, I love hummingbirds. They're like me in bird form, busy, active, right? You can always get some sugar water and a little bit of a hang up thing and put it on your patio. And believe me, they will come and visit you every day. And unlike bigger birds, they don't leave poop all over the place. So that's an extra benefit. Not to mention they're painted beautifully. I mean, if you ever get to see one still, amazing the way they are. I call it painted beautifully by nature. Okay, I don't need to tell you this, but I'm going to say it quick. If your body's healthy, it doesn't mean that your mind is healthy. If your mind is healthy, your body should be healthier, but not vice versa. Normally, if your mind is healthy, your body has a chance of being healthy too, but not necessarily the other way around. So I'm asking you to please become observant and hold yourself accountable for what kind of crazy food are you eating. One of the ways I've kind of gotten rid of the diabetes, at least for now, is I'm eating fresh veggies every day. I'm, eating lean protein. I don't use much salt on anything. I'm exercising a lot. I'm doing everything I know to do so that I can be around to torment you guys for a little bit longer. So please, food is medicine. I'm going to say it to you again. Food is medicine. I grew up in New Orleans, as many of you know it. So God knows what I ate when I was little. Alligator and crawfish, and everything was fried and battered. It was insane. But I had to unlearn all that. And I think because I've changed my diet significantly and being at home, don't have to eat out and try to make something at a restaurant work for me, because they look at me like, you want what now? So you have an opportunity now, I think, to really hold yourself accountable and try to eat healthier and show your body some respect, because after all, against a lot of odds, your body came through for you with the help of the antiretrovirals. So show it some love. Show it some love. It'll give it back to you tenfold. Okay, next slide. Somebody's saying best food in New Orleans. Yeah, they fry water, exactly. Okay, so your relationship with your body should be more than, what you do with your car at Jiffy Lube. You should not just wash it and feed it. You should love it. You should nurture it. You should admire it. You should massage it, and I don't mean genitals. You should feed it like you respect it. I can't tell you the last time I had a soda, honestly, and I have zero craving for it. As I got further down the road, I realized that the only thing I miss mostly, and I give it to myself maybe once a week, is a piece of freshly baked bread, because, oh my God, if I'm around the baking, the likelihood that I'm gonna give in is 100%. But one piece, but not half the loaf. Okay. Snacks are important, but they don't mean Skittles and, I know, I hear you. I know I'm the messenger of bad news, but snacks can be raw almonds. It can be superfood, protein shake that you can put in your, shaker. Many of us are depleted in collagen. And so if you can afford, or your doc will somehow get it for you, you can try to add some collagen to that, because it'll give you better hair growth, better nail beds, some benefit to your joints, those kinds of things. You obviously don't need to do the level of exercise that I'm doing, but as you might remember, when I disclosed to you guys that I was been diagnosed with diabetes, I was like, oh, I'm not having this. Tell me what I have to do, and I'll be doing it. Somebody's asking about vitamin D supplements. I take vitamin D because I need it to keep my bones strong, just like most people do. But I prefer, as best as I can, to get it from food. However, I still do take a supplement because I also have osteoporosis, and I need to slow that drama down, because, I don't need broken bones and a hip replacement and all that kind of stuff. So mostly everybody, it's bizarre to me, is vitamin D deficient, because it's about, we've been told about skin cancer to the point where we're afraid to be in the sun. It's a question of moderation and your physical health. If you've ever had skin cancer before, that's a different thing. But, educate yourself about this stuff, because as you know, most of the time our docs do not have the time to go into the detail that I am going into with you now. You got to kind of educate yourself, make yourself a little list of things. I'm seeing my doctor next week. I'm sure she's already taken Xanax to prepare for that meeting, because I'm going in there with articles and my supplements, and she's gonna be like, Neva, we have 30 minutes. And I'm just gonna tell her, then schedule me a return trip, because I'm gonna do the first 10 questions, and I'll be back next month with the next 5 questions. Somebody asked about the collagen. I use a powder form of it, and I put it in my superfood protein shake. You guys wanna see it?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay, hold on. Let me run to the kitchen. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so here, I don't know if you can see it very well, but here is from Whole Foods. That's what 360 is. I get a lot of stuff from Whole Foods. And again, I know you may have a limited budget, but the main things you want to get that's fresh and organic is fruits and vegetables, for sure. And, a lot of stores, Ralph's, whatever, a lot of them have an organic section now. So this is what I usually use. This is the collagen. Let's see if I can maybe make it readable for you. Can you see it? And it's got a little scoop cup in there. So, and scoop cup in here. So I usually do a scoop and a scoop, put it in my shaker, and then, go walking. Take care of yourself, and no one else is going to do it. And if you fought to be alive against significant odds, I don't want you to just be breathing. I want you to be happy, feeling good, enjoying the life that you worked so hard to sustain. Because many of you, as you know, could not be here. Getting old habits of eating are not easy, but once you see the benefit and the benefit of exercise, you'll be motivated. I can only model it for you, which is what I'm trying to do, and encourage you to not just settle for existing, but actually get to living and invest in your own health, mentally, physically, and food is medicine. Food is medicine. Okay, I think the rest, and you remember, if I exercise, I'm going to sleep. I don't need to look for Advil PM. I'm just looking for the shower and a bed. So exercise will help you in lots of ways. And listen, I'm talking about something as simple as walking. When I go walking, it's not like I drive 3 hours to get to a stellar place. I walk out my front door and I look for where the hills are, if it's a hill day. And I just walk 3-4 hours. People look at me like I'm on a pass from an Alzheimer's home. You understand what I'm saying to you? They're like, this girl walks every day. What's wrong with her? Some of them stop me and I tell them what I do for a living and they say, oh, well, I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. Like, super. Okay, let's go on to the next slide, please. Okay, you see what I said on the very first bullet point. If your sleep is not good, please don't accept it. Please examine, there's apps for your sleep tracking. And if not, there's the old school paper and pencil. My Fitbit actually tracks it for me. So there's lots of ways that you can track it. But I'm telling you, we don't appreciate the value of sleep in this country. We just don't. And it's a huge mistake. Now, a lot of us have a lot of shit in our head, ideas, thoughts, worries, frustration. What I do myself sometimes when I can't shut it down is I write down the things I'm going to work on tomorrow, and I bring it to my office, not leave it in my bedroom. And I know that I'm not going to forget it because I wrote it down and that it's on tomorrow's agenda and I can let it go. Set it aside until the next day. For some of my folks, that doesn't work. So we have to put it in a box, inside a box, in a closet, just to put some geography, some distance between their head and the material. Okay. The first time I saw the Calm, C-A-L-M, commercial on TV, do nothing for 30 seconds or 15, I thought to myself, wow, that's pretty informative that we are finally waking up to the fact that we do not have to be in mental or physical movement and motion 24/7. And if you see it on TV, I try to say, okay, Neva, stop. Don't think of anything. I can't do it. In the middle of, I'm getting to 13 seconds. I'm almost there. And then I'm thinking, why are you thinking about 13 seconds? Think about the sky. So it takes a while to program yourself to do it in a way that it is achievable. Don't be hard on yourself. I talk to myself in third person, like, Neva, you know, you're a piece of work, girl. Get it together. Laugh at yourself. Don't get all twisted. Things take time. And I'm assuming most of you know about sleep hygiene. If you don't, Google it, but here's what it means simply. How do you transition from the busyness of life or the lack of to sleep? Your body, if you develop a routine, your body will know when you are trying to transition between awakeness and unconsciousness. For me, my body knows by the time I crawl up on into the shower to clean up from the day, wash the day off, it knows, okay, in about 30 minutes, she's probably going to finally lay down. And I notice it because I'm now yawning in the shower. That gives me a clue that my body is tuned in to this process. They know what's coming, and there's a chance that maybe this will be a good night of sleep. Okay, next slide, Emmanuel, please. Okay, we're moving away from your body, but remember that your mind and body are not separate. They are intimately interwoven. You know, I can only take so much of the news media. Now, I'm happy at my age, and because I'm a gay woman, that I can go from Rachel to Dawn to Andy, who now has a baby. You know what I mean? I never thought I'd see this many, you know, accomplished LGBT members managing massive international news. To me, that every time I see that, I just smile. Because for so long, we didn't even have that as an option. You guys know Anderson Cooper had a baby boy, right? Yeah, I think Wyatt something, forget the name. I'm going to forget this, so I want to tell you because I know I'm going to forget it if I don't. There are two TV series that if you haven't seen them, I would strongly recommend them to you. Try not to binge watch them because they are emotionally powerful. I'm sure many of you are in the WeHo area, so you've probably seen the billboards that says, "We're here." You guys know what I'm talking about? It's a bunch of gay or trans folks who take their drag show to the middle of nowhere into cities that hate us, and they put on these amazing drag shows. We're, WE''RE, here, HERE. I can't remember if it's Showtime or or HBO, but if you Google it, you'll find it.
It's HBO.
It's what?
HBO.
Okay, great. The second one that I just located a couple weeks ago is a series on HBO. It's called This Much I Know Is True. Now, it's less about us, but it's more about mental illness and family secrets and how to deal with sacrificing yourself for someone else's life. So for somebody who's interested in understanding family dynamics and schizophrenia and codependence to the point of self-sacrifice and annihilation of your own life to take care of another, I would suggest that you give it a shot. It's really well done, and of course, Rosie O'Donnell plays the social worker. And I don't know how many of you know Rosie O'Donnell, but I used to work with one of her first girlfriends, and Rosie's a piece of work. She got a mouth on her that makes me look tame. So food for thought, that we're here, and this much I know is true. Okay, somebody's saying, okay. Next, somebody's saying, I would suggest the Netflix series Hollywood. It is a partial true story, Hollywood with a, okay, super. Somebody's making a recommendation. Thank you. All right, mental health break during the day means you are doing something that you like. You're treating yourself. For me, I shut down the computers, and I live in an area where I can walk to a Starbucks. and I get a small, low sugar, not crazy caffeine, or maybe a hot green tea, and I walk for a couple of miles. Now, you might think, well, who the hell thinks that's something pleasurable? I do. But for you, you'd have to decide that. So a real break means that you're not just sitting in a chair. It means that you're engaging in something that you're exhaling, you're enjoying it, and it's not going to have negative consequences. For most of you, when you lie down at night to try to sleep, or during the day, or however it works, you want to listen and feel how tight your muscles in your body. I have to go because, I'm now working out pretty heavily. I now have to think about, are my toes relaxed? Are my ankles relaxed? Are the muscles in my legs flaccid or limp, or are they still tight? And I literally have to visually think about them in my head and relax them. And I do that all the way up through to my neck, the muscles on my forehead, those kinds of things. Because most of the time, if we don't realize how tense our body is, and it's even harder now because we can't, for the most part, get massages. I know some people are getting massages, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about regular massages without a happy ending. So pay attention to how relaxed your body really is when you lie it down. And if it's not, work with it to try to breathe deeper and try to have yourself kind of go limp, where the bed is supporting your weight fully. And if you're in a chair, you can do the same thing. Let the chair support your weight. You just be dead weight so that your body can actually relax for a minute. Okay, next slide, Emmanuel, please.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have to figure out why you are interested in making self-care a priority. Well, for me, it was a wake-up call getting my little diabetes diagnosis. So I clearly, knew that it was on between me and diabetes. For you, it may be other reasons, but if you don't have knowledge of what's motivating you to really be kind to your body and your mind, then it's going to be hard to get it done. So try to think through how you really, here's how you can figure it out. Listen to how you talk to yourself, and I know we all do it. Are you harsh on yourself, or do you laugh at the crazy shit you do? Are you always focused on the negative? Neva, you were supposed to do this today. What the hell? Why didn't you do this today? Now I'm like, shut the hell up. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm okay. I just simply forgot I got derailed. Stop putting pressure on yourself. Unless it's some crisis, which rarely is the case, even in my world, things can often wait. Now, if it becomes a habit that they're excessively being pushed out, that's not okay. If you're feeling like you could benefit from telehealth, from a mental health perspective, many people like me, that's all we're doing now. And I can only tell you, if you can find a therapist that you can connect with, who is, please hear this, who is LGBT knowledgeable, friendly, and preferably a member, who is knowledgeable about the specific issue that you might be working with, whether it's PTSD, whether it's a relationship gone bad. You don't just take the first therapist that is made available to you. If it doesn't feel like there's a connection, you got to acknowledge that that's a real issue. And you can maybe consider, and probably should, asking for to maybe transfer to someone else. It's about you getting a good match, good quality of care. And a therapist and doctor, whoever it is, medical, physical, psychiatric, whatever, if they're threatened by you asking for um, the, um, if they're asking you, if they feel uncomfortable that you had the audacity to ask about transferring to someone else, that's not really a self-evolved provider. That's more of a narcissistic injury than it is someone who really has put your health above their needs. And that's never acceptable. Lord knows we have it in the White House. So clearly we know that others people's needs should come before ourselves, in particularly in power disparity relationships. Mark's killing me. I'm not so White House. I hear you. Okay. Let's see. If you were brought up thinking that you have to be really crazy to see a mental health provider, I would just tell it to you direct. That's some crazy stuff. They taught you the wrong information, and you have to challenge it and decide for yourself if that's really true. Good mental health is really not so much about treating illness, but it's also about you taking the time out to figure out who you are, what do you want to do with the rest of your life, where were the forks in the road that maybe got you moved in a direction that was being driven by an old wound or some, I call it poisonous pedagogy. Poisonous pedagogy means you were told some stuff that you should have never been taught because it was about demeaning you, trapping you, taking away your decision-making power, those kinds of things. So please examine your freedom and your self-perception about finding someone to help you examine your life. It's really what it is. So, okay, next slide. Emmanuel, thanks. The first one is, I'm not sure why I even put it here because you've lived it. Think about how you've coped with hard times before. Try to redeploy whatever strengths and strategies you used then to help you now. I love talking to you guys because I know you've been to hell and back several times. And I know that we wouldn't be alive if we weren't strong human beings. We just wouldn't. We would have taken our lives, we would have succumbed to illness, we'd have caught a case, or whatever it might have been. So you're already starting in an advanced stage of not just physical fine-tuning of your body and your immune system, but with knowing how to cope with existential issues. Am I going to die from this? Did I get HIV as a message from God, which is ridiculous? Okay. You know, you already have been through more in your life span than most people outside of our community have ever been through. Starting with trying to figure out what you were going to do with your gay, bisexual, trans status when you were, I don't know, 6 or 7 or whatever the hell it was. So we're strong, you're strong, but if that doesn't mean you can't get support. After all the work I've done and all the years and the degrees and all this other drama, I still see a therapist. Fine tuning, she'll hold my ass accountable if I'm running down some BS to her. She's like, Neva, hello? Look who you're talking to. You know, I know you're running down some craziness right now. You're not telling me how you feel. You're giving me some intellectual craziness. So don't let what you've been taught about mental health care, mental health therapy, mental health medications, deprive you of something that could maybe help you. And if it's a seasoned therapist who gets our community, that's half the battle right there. Okay. Some of you might be doing virtual cooking with each other, so you're not so alone at the house. Some of you might be doing virtual workouts with someone else. Some of you might be doing virtual sexual encounters, which predates COVID, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. So I'm suggesting that that is kind of a cool way to bring someone into your home without literally doing that. And it's kind of fun to do because half the time I don't know where the spices are. I forgot to pre-soak the grains. I'm like, whatever. Okay. I can't emphasize the last bullet point that you see there. Critical. Critical before COVID. Super critical right now. You have to do something with the stress, the anxiety, the frustration. And we're blessed to live in California, where we have, for the most part, amazing countryside and amazing weather. Amazing weather. Next slide, Emmanuel, please. Okay, if you were in the training we did on resilience, you know, keep it simple, Rep. It's a capacity for you to make realistic plans and take steps to carry them out. You know, when I first started walking, I was like, oh, okay, really? Everything was hurting. I know where all the bathrooms are in the neighborhood. I know where the Starbucks are. And I'll treat myself along the walk to a green tea or to a wellness tea, you know, those kinds of things. So I'm suggesting that the exercise can be embedded in the exercise, the walking, if you decide to try, can be, you know, a drop in at a Starbucks with a mask. Hello, social distancing, please. To get yourself a hot green tea or an iced green tea or something that does not have 30 grams of sugar and 250 calories. I call it dessert in a cup. Those two things would be incompatible, walking this many miles and having a non-healthy beverage. Every now and then you can treat yourself, but you still have to think about the size and those kinds of things. Okay, if you don't love who you are and how you're living, it's a problem because you won't make good choices. So whatever it is about yourself that, and I'm not talking about the superficial LA craziness that, you know, you're older, you know, drive a 911 Targa, you don't have 3 mil in the bank, you know, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, do you like the human being that you are? If not, fix it. Generally, it's going to require, though, you working with someone professionally who can help you figure out the function in the dysfunction of you behaving in a way that you don't really even like about yourself. That's where good therapy works. I don't know if there's even any more slides, Emmanuel, are there in the PowerPoint?
That's one.
Okay, so in summary, I guess what I tried to do here is try to keep a hopeful outlook by being active in your decision-making and active in trying to improve your mental and your physical health. Make sure the choices you are making are coming from inside you and are your thoughts, not how you've been programmed to think. Try to visualize what you want and stop worrying about what you don't have. Make it happen. If you care for your body and your mind, your life will improve significantly. And given how hard most of our lives have been with all the issues we've had to go through, I figure whatever I got left is going to be on my terms and is going to be self-enhancing, not self-defeating. Okay, Emmanuel, is there anything else on that slide deck?
Just
yeah, resources. So I have about 7:45. I think that's close, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So the other, if you could pull up the other document, Emmanuel, I just want to walk people through a couple of things and then we can maybe take questions if we have time.
Yeah.
We're going to go
Thank
to
you.
8 o'clock, Neva.
8 o'clock, Brian?
Yep.
Okay, super. Thank you. I know you all can read, but this next document it's from the National Alliance for Mental Illness. And if you ever need readable and understandable information about any kind of mental illness, depression, PTSD, insomnia, bipolarity, borderline, you know, this is the website to get on because it's written in understandable language. And I think you'll find this, we don't have time, obviously, but to get into all of it. But I wanted to give it to you because I think it's worth your time to go through it. Somehow I lost the PowerPoint.
I am. I'm pulling it up. I'm just.
Oh, okay. I thought I did something. Sorry.
It locked me off, so I'm just pulling it up. 1 second.
Okay. I oftentimes turn a lot of my patients onto the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill because I don't like to tell people what I think they might be troubled with. I like to teach them what something is and ask them if they think this resonates with them.
There you go.
Okay, super. All right, so, you know, it's, I think, a 24 pager. So if you could scroll through a little of it, you'll see, yeah, I mean, it's really tied to COVID, but it's got some stuff in there that transcend COVID. So can you go to the next couple of slides for me, the table of contents, sorry, go back for me, please. So you can see that it's got all kinds of information about how to navigate mental health issues in the time of COVID. Mental health issues are enough to navigate without COVID. But with COVID on top of it, I've taken the opportunity, let me just say this directly to you. To my knowledge, the bathhouses are closed. Anybody want to inform me that I'm misinformed? So if the bathhouses are closed, and I have an opportunity to work with my folks who are frequent flyers over there at the bathhouses to do some telehealth with them, their family, their partner. And they are now required, so to speak, to sit with their emotional reactions to the work we're doing instead of running to the bathhouse and coping that way. So if you are willing to become more enlightened, this is a document that I wouldn't waste your time giving it to you if I didn't think it was of some value. So if you can go through a couple more slides and let me see what I want to pull up, if anything, and then I'll give you the last 10 minutes. Keep going. It's a lot of information. So it talks here, like, for example, this, go back, yeah. Take care of yourself through exercise and movement. Listen, most of us have become slugs. I don't know if you know what a slug is. It's like a snail, where even when we walk, we're creeping. The obesity in this country is staggering. And of course, it drives the diabetes and it drives the hypertension. We don't really move anymore. Now, if you struggle with your joints, you know, from wear and tear and the lovely process of aging, you know, there's supplements that can help you beyond glucosamine and chondroitin and MSM. So just know that if there are things that are prohibiting you from engaging in what I call low impact exercising, you know, I'm not like doing a spin class for 40 minutes, sweating like I used to when I was young. I'm just walking, talking to the birds, feeding the squirrels organic almonds. I'm not making this up. I'm telling you, I look like I've been released from the Alzheimer's home. I am just simply trying to be among nature, breathe, get my hips and my body moving. If I end up with joint tenderness, I increase my supplement with my doctor's clearance. So again, if you scroll down, Emmanuel, for me to maybe the next, go back, I'm sorry. Do meaningful things. I saw it, yeah, hold right back up, one more, back up. Do meaningful things with your free time.
Beautiful.
I'm supposed to be working on the infamous book that I've been talking about for 20 years that I'm supposed to be writing. Well, I finally put my fingers to the keyboards. Now I'm still on chapter 1, but you know, it's further than I've ever been. And while I'm walking, sometimes as I'm coming back home, I start to think about, okay, this is a piece that needs to go in that chapter. Put it in there before you forget.
Right.
So for me, this time out has really been a recuperative time and a time for me to redirect some of my, because I don't want to leave this planet without giving gifts to the people that are coming behind me. Because I've been doing this work for a long time and I know I could help a lot of them hit the ground running quicker than have to learn all this on them by themselves. You know, getting rid, I cleaned out my office yesterday. Now, those of you who know me, you know that there was 30+ years of documentation in my office. The professional shredder was here for 2 hours. My office is so light now that I want to go in it. My desk is like clean. The floor, the hardwood floor, I was down on my hands and knees yesterday polishing it. So I'm organizing and purging your house is another form of self-care. So please, if you get a chance, take a look at this document because there's some really good things in here that I think you would find helpful if you're motivated to take this time to make some changes. All right, I'm going to stop talking and give Brian and Emmanuel the floor for whatever we need to do next.
Well, I think we'll open it up to questions.